Harmony of Dissonance was a game I was curious about before I even started, since I know a lot of people have quite strong opinions about it. And I was curious as to why exactly, and I don't know, I feel like the game's like fine, but it has some flaws that do weaken it greatly. At least that's kind of how I'd put it. Honestly, I think the biggest flaw Harmony of Dissonance has is the, putting it nicely, extremely weak conveyance the game has. Metroidvanias are about exploration and memory, and conveyance plays a pivotal role in how the genre functions. I won't pretend like I'm, any sort of like game designer or an expert or anything. I've just thought a lot about my favorite genre, and I think Harmony is an example of the importance of effective conveyance. One of the most important things is that conveyance is subtle, but noticeable. The developer's invisible hand guiding the player along, whether it be a single intended path or guiding the player to the point where they can roam and explore on their own. The player still needs to be able to feel that they are making the discovery themselves, and an overbearing hand, or one too absent, can break the sense of discovery, either by taking that sense of discovery away from the player, or the player being unable to find the direction of the next discovery. I feel Harmony suffers from the latter, and I've seen people talk about getting lost in the game, and I definitely did too. There were absolutely parts where I could have looked a little closer at the map, but it wouldn't have changed a huge amount of the water back and forth I ended up doing, trying to find that way forward, leading me to surrender a few times to the savior game facts. I was able to get almost the entire map from both castles without outside aid, and literally only one room forced me to look at the map, which being a uniquely hidden room. Just like Symphony of the Night, Harmony of Dissonance had two castles, which is an idea I liked, just like in Symphony of the Night. But I feel like it just wasn't the same, since the castles were explored in the main game, instead of being the second half of the game. Just leaving it feeling kind of, underwhelming. I do really like that you swap between the two castles constantly, instead of, it being the back half of the game, which is the main thing I like about the implementation. I just feel like it's not, I feel like more could have been done with it. I do like the reasoning for there being two castles in this game, and I think it's really interesting, but that same reasoning is also something that I draw issue with. Story isn't the reason I play Metroidvanias, but they're still an integral part of the game. Even whenever I don't care for them much. Hell, I didn't care much about Circle of the Moon story. Even if I didn't mind it, I didn't mention it in its own episode. That's the problem I have. Circle of the Moon story. That sounds weird, so let me explain. I don't dislike either game's story. I'm perfectly fine with them. They're both perfectly fine, honestly. The issue I have is how similar they are. I'm not sure how common the setup is in the Castlevania series, but both Circle of the Moon and Harmony of Dissonance have someone taken hostage, and a third person in the group betray the protagonist under the influence of Dracula in some fashion. I think it's a fine setup. I like it. I was not sure why it's used back to back, even if Circle of the Moon is not canon. Definitely doesn't help that I jumped into Harmony right after finishing Circle. At least the way the corruption occurs is different, and honestly more interesting in Harmony, with the Vlad relics creating an alternate persona within Maxim born of his inner darkness, compared to Q's inner darkness just being magnified. Oh yeah, you don't even fight a full-on Dracula here, it's just a wraith form of him. At least I think that counts as not being like a full Drac. I did also like that the rooms that swap between castles function as the warp rooms, and speaking of rooms, why do items that are pre-placed in a room just drop like that, spawning slightly above the floor? It's not really like a nitpick or a flaw or anything, I don't know, it kind of tickles my fancy a little bit. I think it's kind of silly. And I did like the way items were handled here. We can equip a lot of varied stuff. You can parts that give your whip an element, or make it just straight up stronger, or that you crush certain walls. Speaking of, why are the crushing tip and crush boots equipable items and not just relics? Or passive upgrades? I don't know, it just felt weird. At least the crush boots gave some defense, I guess. Oh yeah, the game has a shop, which is something I did want on Circle of the Moon, but you can only sell gems on the extra shit you pick up from enemies. There are things I like about the game, though. It's not all negative or just neutral. The quick save feature is nice to have, even if it felt a little bit clunky. I think my favorite part of the game was either having access to the dash immediately or the item crashes. Okay, yeah, putting those side by side, it's the item crashes. This is my first time getting to play with item crashes, and I'm not counting Victor in the beginning of Symphony of the Night. That's different. And man, I enjoyed using them. They're also fucking broken. The sub-weapon I used the most, and probably my favorite, was the cross, especially with the Wind spellbook. Bosses and enemies alike follow the item crashes, with only a few bosses actually posing any sort of threat or make me actually exert any effort. Once again, I'm inclined to draw comparisons to Circle of the Moon, where bosses had what felt like a million health. I'm trying to talk about Harmony here, but I can't help it. There's just a lot of parallels I'm seeing and things I'm realizing that I wanted to talk about during the Circle of the Moon episode. Speaking of item crashes, they're also the main source of iframes, because for some reason you get no iframes when you get hit, so I hope you like getting comboed. It's definitely a don't be in that position scenario, but it just feels so different compared to how most other games handle it, I never really adjusted to it. That wasn't anything that frustrated me, but less than I would have expected, which honestly I'm surprised by. Maybe because most of the bosses ended up taking like 2 or 3 tries at the very most, and normal enemies just fold like paper. And having both the quick save and dash, so saving progress and returning to where I wasn't really that big of a problem as it otherwise could be. I don't know, that's the only reason I can think of why I didn't get frustrated. I did like some of the upgrades Harmony had, with my favorite being just like a Circle of the Moon. I might as well just make this a level feature at this point. The space jump function, which is given to you by the Griffin's Wing. It's literally just like a super jump, down and up on the D-pad, unless you fat finger in another direction. Something I did a lot, I won't lie. I'm not really too sure what else to say about Harmony, since, I don't know, everything kind of felt just, like, standard. I guess I like the music, but, the GBA's lack of sound hardware, unfortunately, does it no favors. And, honestly, is that really something that's notable for a Castlevania game? Like, are there any bad OSTs in the series? I'm gonna have to give Maximum Mode a try sometime, but I've had my fill of Harmony for now. I'd recommend it to those who are interested, although, once again, there are definitely games I'd recommend first, but it definitely will not be a waste of your time.